Stop scrolling for 1 second. You know that feeling when you're driving a back road in your own state and you pass a town that's still on the map? Still has a water tower, still has a bar with one truck out front, and something in use slows down without permission? That tin grain elevator catching late light. A motel sign from 1974 still buzzing. A lake the size of a small ocean with 3 boats on it. That quiet ache that sits behind your ribs for the rest of the drive. And then Monday hits and you forget. But here's what I kept noticing across Nebraska. 10 places that used to be the vacation spots. The lake weekends, the fossil beds, the sandhills floats, and they're disappearing in slow motion. If you map Road Trip America for a living like I do, subscribe. Actual drowned towns. Actual population of 1. A real woman, age 91, holding a whole village together by hand. 10 Nebraska vacation towns, quietly being abandoned. Let's go. Number 10, Gothenburg. Population 3,008 as of the 2020 census. Dawson County. Sits right off I-80, about 3 hours west of Lincoln, on the old Lincoln Highway corridor. Home prices on Zillow run $95,000 to $220,000, which is essentially the same band it's been in for a decade. And that flatness is the tell. Gothenburg's pitch for 100 years has been the Pony Express capital of Nebraska. 2 original 1860s relay stations are still standing, one in Emmon Park downtown, one out at the old Machette site. The lead cabin pulls between 30,000 and 40,000 visitors a year, per the foundation that runs it. That's the headline number, and it sounds healthy. Here's where the logic gets honest. That number hasn't grown in 15 years. The I-80 traveler stops at the chain hotel exit, not the historic downtown exit. Gothenburg's tourism economy isn't dying. It's slowly subtracting itself from the interstate. One closed storefront at a time. The Sun Theater holds on. The Runza holds on. The ethanol plant holds on. The grain warehouses near the rail line do not. Here's the thing that got me. The Pony Express cabin in Emmon Park is volunteer-run and free. April through October. On a slow Tuesday in August, you can walk inside it and be the only person there. The wood smells like wood. There's a saddle on a rail. A teenager once made a 100-mile shift at full gallop out of a doorway that small. The silence in that cabin makes grown adults whisper without meaning to. That's the softest version of a town being abandoned. When nobody decides to stop coming, they just start driving past. Number 9, Republican City. Picture a lake with 75 miles of shoreline and a town of 134 people sitting on it. That's not a typo. Republican City, Harlan County, 2020 census. Harlan County Lake is Nebraska's second largest at 13,250 surface acres. The dam was finished in 1952. Home prices today, $45,000 to $130,000. Through the 70s and 80s, this was a vacation magnet. Kansas, families came up. Nebraska families came down. 3 motels, a couple of restaurants, the kind of bait shop that smelled like minnows and coffee. Then the 1986 farm crisis hit the surrounding valley. Drought drawdowns gutted the lake economy through the 90s and 2000s, and the next generation just didn't come back. What's left is real and worth visiting. Patterson Harbor Marina is still running. The Corps of Engineers Visitor Center is still open. The lake itself is still magnificent. But the plywood on Main Street outnumbers the open signs. And at least one motel has been sitting empty for 15 years. Here's the detail I can't shake. During drought drawdowns, the lake drops far enough that the foundations of pre-1952 farmsteads come back up. The Corps bought those farms out before flooding the valley, bulldozed the houses, filled the basements, and when the water's low, people walk out across dry mud and stand in kitchens that haven't been kitchens since Truman was president. That happens every few years. Nobody advertises it. Number 8, Royal Antelope County. Population approximately 63. The town has fewer residents than there are visible skeletons in the barn 3 miles down the road. That barn is Ashfall Fossil Beds State Historical Park, a national natural landmark holding over 200 complete fossil skeletons of animals that died at a single watering hole 12 million years ago, suffocating in volcanic ash blown in from what's now Idaho. Discovered in 1971 by a paleontologist named Mike Voorhees. Opened to the public in 1991. School groups, paleontology day trippers, the occasional retired couple. They drive in, they drive out. Almost nobody stops in Royal itself. Founded around 1900 on the old Chicago-St. Paul, Minneapolis, and Omaha line. The railroad consolidation of the 1980s pulled the steady jobs, and the population has been bleeding out for 40 years. When houses do list, you'll see $30,000 to $90,000, and they don't move fast. Now here's the thing about Ashfall. The main attraction is a roofed enclosure. They call it the Rhino Barn, built directly over the active dig. You walk on a catwalk above the bones. Rhinos, three-toed horses, saber-toothed deer, mothers curled around calves, lying exactly where they fell. Then you drive 3 minutes back to Royal, past the empty lots and the boarded houses, and try to do the math on what gets preserved and what doesn't. A town disappearing above a town that already did, 12 million years apart. Number 7, Crawford. Crawford, Dawes County. Population 840 as of 2020, down from a 1940s peak of around 1 in 400. 3 miles east of Fort Robinson State Park, Nebraska's largest, over 22,000 acres. Home prices, $60,000 to $180,000. Dawes County lost 119 people between 2020 and 2023 alone, one of the steepest drops in the state. The fort was founded in 1874, decommissioned in 1948, became a state park in 1956. It housed cavalry, a Dewey German P-Daub camp, and the largest WE K-9 training center in the country. In 1996, Fort Rob pulled 355,000 visitors in a single year. That's a peer-reviewed Great Plains research number, not a Chamber of Commerce brag. It hasn't been near that since. The Drifter Cook Shack still serves. The old Main Street Inn is still standing. Hunters come through. A thin line of Colorado retirees buys in. But the highway frontage motels are empty, and the school's enrollment is the conversation at every coffee table. If you're still with me at Crawford, you're my people. I'm mapping fading vacation towns in every state. Iowa and the Dakotas drop next month. Hit subscribe so you catch them, and stick around. The next 4 are where this list gets heavy. Number 6, Red Cloud. Crazy Horse was bayoneted in the adjutant's office at Fort Robinson and died on the floor that night. The building's gone. The foundation is marked. Several of his descendants drive up from Pine Ridge every September on the anniversary, quietly, and the park staff knows them by name. Most school groups never hear that part. That's the weight Crawford carries. Now Red Cloud. Red Cloud, Webster County. Population 991 in 2020. Willa Cather's hometown. The model for the Prairie of My Antonia and O Pioneers. And the heartbreaking number. Webster County peaked at 13,956 people in 1910. It's now under 3,400. Every census since 1910 has been a loss. The town has fought back harder than almost any place on this list. The National Willa Cather Center opened in 2017 on a $7 million capital campaign, built specifically to make Red Cloud a literary pilgrimage destination. And it works. Tourists come from London, Tokyo, Berlin. The 1885 Cather Childhood Home is restored. The Red Cloud Opera House operates. Cafes open and close and open again. Restored Victorians list for $180,000 to $275,000. Everything else runs $45,000 to $140,000. But drive 10 minutes in any direction and you're on the actual Cather landscape, and a lot of those farmsteads are abandoned. Here's what stays with you. Cather wrote that the world broke in two in 1922 or thereabouts. Stand on Red Cloud's Main Street now, and the buildings she described in 1918 are still there, lived in and unlived in on the same block, while the bluestem prairie she walked runs unbroken for 30 miles south. The town is preserving the evidence of an America that is otherwise leaving without her. That's a hell of a job for 991 people. Number 5, Alliance. 80,000 visitors a year. 39, vintage America. One full-scale Stonehenge replica built out of half-buried Cadillacs in a pasture 5 miles north of town, 1987. Jim Reinders built it as a memorial to his father. Alliance, Box Butte County, population 8,164 as of 2020, down from a 1990 peak of 9,920. Home prices $70,000 to $200,000. That's Carhenge, and yes, it's exactly as wonderful as it sounds. The town behind it, though, is the real story. Alliance was founded in 1888 as a Burlington Railroad division point, meaning crews changed here. Locomotives got serviced here. The railroad bankrolled the entire place. Then, through the 1990s and 2000s, Burlington Northern restructured operations and cut the rail workforce significantly. The Panhandle Ag economy bled out in parallel. The Nebraska State Demographer's Office classifies the whole region as persistent depopulation. The downtown still functions. The hospital still operates. The BNSF yard is still there, just leaner. A couple of highway motels and a cluster of houses near the old rail district sit boarded. The thing that surprised me about Carhenge, it's free year-round with no gate, no ticket booth, no staff after about 4 p.m. You can pull off Highway 87 at 2 in the morning and walk inside a ring of half-buried 62 Cadillacs while coyotes call across the buttes. Roughly 200 to 300 people see it on an average summer day. Almost nobody is there at night, which means the most photographed weird Americana monument in the state is, most of the time, completely alone with the wind. Number 4, Valentine. Cherry County is 6,148 square miles, larger than Connecticut, with roughly 5,500 total residents. That works out to less than 1 person per square mile. The county seat is Valentine, population 2,633 in 2020, down from a 1960s peak around 3,000. Home prices in town, $80,000 to $220,000. Sandhills Ranches, $400,000 well into the millions. Valentine is the gateway to the Niobrara National Scenic River, congressionally designated in 1991, which has pulled roughly 40 zeros and floaters per peak summer through a dozen-plus outfitters. Graham, Little Outlaw, Dryland, A&L. Smith Falls State Park sits 12 miles east with Nebraska's tallest waterfall. Fort Niobrara National Wildlife Refuge holds bison and elk. On paper, this is a thriving destination. In practice, Valentine has lost residents in every census since 1980. The outfitters quietly admit the next generation isn't booking river trips like their parents did, and tourism is 3 months on, 9 months of wind. The economy is real though but seasonal and aging. Here's the detail. There are 230 documented waterfalls along the scenic stretch of the Niobrara. Most of them have no name. You can drift past one in a tube on a Saturday afternoon and never know it's there. A 70-foot ribbon of water pouring through a crack in the canyon wall out of a spring no engineer ever touched. The second and third generation outfitters who run these trips will tell you off the record. This whole tradition may not survive another 20 years. Their kids are in Lincoln, their kids' kids are in Denver. Number 3, Niobrara. Niobrara, Knox County. Population 324 as of 2020, peaked at 775 in 1940. Founded in 1856, one of the earliest white settlements in the state. Home prices, $45,000 to $135,000. And here's the headline. The town has been physically relocated twice to escape water. Original site, 1856, sat at the confluence of the Niobrara and Missouri rivers. An 1881 ice jam catastrophe destroyed it. They moved the town. Second site lasted until the late 1970s, when Gavins Point Dam, completed in 1957, raised the regional water table enough that the second town site began drowning from below. Saturated foundations, sinking basements, mold in walls that wouldn't dry. Across the 1970s, residents picked the whole place up and moved it to higher ground. The current Niobrara is the third version. Niobrara State Park sits next to it on 1,632 acres with cabins, a swimming pool, and bluff views of the two rivers meeting. Two Rivers Saloon, a market, a Catholic church. The Santee Sioux Reservation immediately to the south. Stand on the bluff in the Starrett Park at sunset and look down at the confluence. You are looking at the third location of a town the rivers have tried to erase for 170 years. The first one's underwater. The second one's a flooded ghost lot. You can still find the street grid in satellite imagery. The third one is 324 people, one saloon, one church, one state park swimming pool, and the clear understanding that the rivers are patient. Number 2, LeMoyne. LeMoyne, Keith County. Relocated village population, roughly 15 to 30 people. Original town site, at the bottom of Lake McConney. Nebraska's one vacation destination by attendance, drawing over 1 million visitor days per year. Lake surfaces, 35,700 acres at full pool. Currently sitting at 43.7% of capacity per Central Nebraska Public Power. Verify that number the week of filming, it moves. Here's the story. Original LeMoyne was platted in 1887 as a Union Pacific stop on the North Platte River. In the late 1930s, Central Nebraska Public Power acquired the entire town site to build Kingsley Dam. Completed in 1941, at the time the second largest hydraulic fill dam in the world. Homes, school, store, cemetery. Flooded on purpose. Residents who didn't relocate had their houses condemned. The new LeMoyne, built up the road, never grew past a bar, a marina, and a handful of cabins. Today, the lake real estate around it is a Colorado refugee market. Cabins $120,000 to $400,000. Lakefront $200,000 to $700. 00 plus. The relocated village itself has barely a postal route. And then this. During the 2004 drought, the lake dropped far enough that the original LeMoyne came back up out of the lake bed. Foundations, sidewalks, the outline of Main Street. Photographs from that summer show families standing in the doorway of a house their grandparents lived in 1939. Dry, cracked mud underfoot, sun on stone that hadn't seen sun in 63 years. Then the rains came back. The town went under again. It has been waiting under there for the next drought ever since. Number 1. Monowi, Boyd County, northeast Nebraska, 6 miles from the South Dakota line. Population 1. The lowest population incorporated municipality in the United States. That one resident is Elsie, 91 years old, and she is the town's mayor, treasurer, librarian, and bartender. The town was founded in 1902 when the Chicago, St. Paul, Minneapolis, and Omaha Railway pushed through Boyd County. It peaked around 150 people in the 1930s. The Dust Bowl took the surrounding farms. Rail consolidation closed the line. The young people went to Omaha, to Sioux Falls, to anywhere with electricity bills and a paycheck. By 2000, the town was down to Elsie and her husband, Rudy. Rudy died in 2004. Elsie has held the village alone for over 20 years. Here is what holding a village alone actually looks like. Nebraska state law requires every incorporated municipality to file an annual road plan and budget. LCC files Monowi's by hand, in pencil, every year, because she is, legally, the mayor and the village board and the entire voting population. She has to hold a meeting with herself, approve the budget she wrote, and submit it. The day she stops, the town legally ceases to exist. There is no ambiguity in that sentence. Swan's signature is the difference between a place existing and a place ending. The Monowi Tavern is open 6 days a week. $6 burgers. A guest book signed by travelers from Japan, Germany, Brazil, the UK, Australia, and every U.S. state. Across the gravel lot sits Rudy's library, a small one-room building. Elsie built herself to house her late husband's 5,000 book collection. It's free. No one staffs it. The books are arranged the way Rudy arranged them. There's a chair next to the wood stove that nobody sits in. That's the chair I keep thinking about. Not a museum piece, not a memorial. Just a chair where a man used to sit, kept exactly where he kept it, by the only person who would know. Asked once why she still files the paperwork. Elsie said she promised Rudy she'd keep the town going as long as she could. She gives a version of that answer every time a journalist asks. Different words. Same shape. Surrounding Boyd County farmland trades at $2,000 to $5,000 an acre. The nearest livable houses, in Lynch or Spencer, run $30,000 to $90,000. The real estate market in Monowi itself is the bar. There is a single overhead light in that tavern on a chain that has been switched on at 4 in the afternoon and off near midnight for over 20 years. When that light goes out for good, a town that has been on the map of the United States since 1902 will quietly fall off it, and the pencil that filed the paperwork will be in a drawer somewhere, still sharp. That's the 10. Do me a favor. Drop the name of the one that stayed with you in the comments. I read them. If you've actually been to any of these, especially LeMoyne when the water was down, or Monowi on a weekday afternoon, tell that story too. Somebody's on this channel needs to hear it. Send this video to the one person in your life who collects backroad troll towns the way other people collect records. And if you want me to keep mapping fading vacation states, Iowa's. Then the Dakotas, subscribe so you don't miss the drop. I'll leave you with this. A gravel lot in Boyd County, a tavern light on a chain, a 91-year-old woman closing up alone, and a chair by a wood stove that nobody sits in.